Good morning, good noon, good evening, whatever time and place you're listening to us from, straight from the 909. It's Mark, Andre, and myself, Isaiah, and together, that's hip-hop. Today we are vibing to one of hip-hop's greats, the R, a.k.a., or no, excuse me, I did that wrong. The R, a.k.a. I already effed the solo. The R, a.k.a. I am not like the rest of them. I'm not on the list. Except he is on our list today. Right. And it's where the R and the A is for Ra, but switch it around and it still sounds like R. The legendary Rakim Allah.
Amen. Amen.
I ain't no joke. So today we got to tread lightly, fellas.
You remind me of the weatherman guy that forces all the songs into his weather forecast. It's impressive, though.
I try.
I believe in your trying. I see it, man.
But we are covering one of hip-hop's dynamic duo projects, Eric B and Rakim's debut album, Paid in Full.
That's right.
Released on July 7th, 1987 by Island subsidiary label Fourth and B-Way Records. It's a mouthful.
Fourth and Broadway, yep.
Okay. The album is considered to be a benchmark of the golden age of hip-hop, period, which is from between 1986 to 1993. It was really a breakthrough for its time, considering this was a time when you had a lot of MCs who were almost like a shouting match. They're very high energy, basically shouting over a beat because
aggressive.
You kind of had to at that time, I guess. But Rakim comes in very contrast for the time. And, he came in very methodical, slow, yet mesmerizing. And he was just one of the first to really change the game up with the internal rhymes. And then you have Eric B, just being a nice complement to this, using samples, doing the cuts.
Scratches. Very
groundbreaking for its time. And now it is really kind of like the template for all of future hip-hop artists to come. So we owe a lot to this group or this duo. And today we have the pleasure of talking about it. So let's get into a little bit of like how we digested it this week. Talking about our week and how we listened to it. How did you experience it this week?
Well, usually I have a story of when I was a young kid and I had an album that kind of transitioned me to an understanding. And this is one of those albums that I don't recall a lot of my people playing, but because we are West Coast people, we over here in LA, so I had a lot of. I'm thinking of all the artists that were being played at the time. It was like NWA, Corrupt, Dub C, Sugar Free, a lot of those kind of guys. But I did have a set of family members that were rap artists, right? And they would play all of the best in the world. So Paid in Full was in the playlist, but it wasn't something that we had consistently. You know what I'm saying? Like and the best way to explain it is like it's played out of 20 albums, right? So, I might have Outkast to juxtapose against this Rakim album. So it didn't really hit me at the time they were playing it for me. But when I got older and I became the lyricologist, I had to do my homework. So I was stuck on the Seventh Seal, the 18th Letter. And that's where I was really building my understanding of Rakim. And, of course, just history. I had to go back to the beginning. And Paid in Full is where I saw the apex of everything. And Paid in Full is like the pieces of the puzzle coming together, but they sincerely didn't know exactly what they were doing. And that's what makes this album special. Because they didn't know who they were yet, right? Yeah. So Eric B and Rakim were still putting the pieces together. Rakim didn't even want to rap. So when he made this album, he didn't even know what he was doing 100%. And then when you get Follow the Leader that follows this album, it's like they knew exactly who they were.
Can you imagine being in that time, not knowing what this would become?
Yeah.
Like you're working on a project with your friend and then like, this is actually going to be historic.
It's going to change the world, right? And they're not even looking at it in that context. Right. Rakim, I did my research on the interviews and stuff, and he's just like, real talk, it was just organic. He wanted to be a professional football player. And just this transition moved him into hip hop because he had the skills. And of course it worked out for him. So this album came when I did my research, when I went to school. compared to when I organically listened to an album, this was different. This was me actually intentionally trying to learn Rakim. So when I got to Paid in Full, I was like, man, this feels like Illmatic, because it's like that first chance, and they did something that we can't marginalize. It can't be marginalized in any form. So yeah, it's one of those albums. It wouldn't be in my top 5, but it's in my top 50. You know what I'm saying? Because the keys to all my favorite artists in the world come all the way back to Rakim. All of them, they come back to this album, Paid in Full. So yeah, Mark, what about you, man?
So this album, it's funny that you mentioned that this album has a sense of no, like, where Eric B and Rakim actually have no sense of identity as far as finding out who they are. A lot of that can be attributed to the fact that this album came out when Rakim was 19 years old.
I thought it was 17. Was it 17 or 18?
It was 19. Oh. I ended up doing the numbers on that, but still, the main attribute or the main thing you can relate to this would be that as Nas being releasing Illmatic when he was 20 years old, but this Paid in Full was done a year earlier in age range anyway, but you wouldn't be able to tell. Right. Vocally, you wouldn't be able to tell. He sounds like a grown-ass man. This album is talking about grown man things. It feels like it doesn't sound like there's a 19-year-old spitting on that mic. The album, when I ended up hearing it, I myself, like Andre, had to do my fair share of homework too, because me starting off with Run DMC, learning about that kind of hip hop, I didn't know that it could get any better than that. I felt that that was fun.
You listened to this album like back in your like teenage years, right?
That's correct.
So you experienced it at a younger age.
Yeah, and the best part about when I was listening to it, when I first heard Rakim, was actually there was this VHS tape that me and my brothers found at a thrift store called NBA Jam Session, and it was during the 1992 NBA season.
Nice little gem. Huh?
Yeah, so it was during the 1992 NBA season. It was like a highlight tape of Shaq, Larry Johnson, Muggsy Bogues, all those guys.
Okay, so where does Rakim fit in this?
So there's a hip hop soundtrack that goes into it. There's songs by Styles, the Bobby Brown Posse, a lot of other people, but there's Don't Sweat the Technique by Eric B and Rakim. That's always that's in a lot of NBA highlights.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the first time that they did it there. I heard it and I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
This guy sounds like a legit rapper, and he looks.
You might be asking, who am I?
Yeah. And that's when I did my homework, and I'm like, dude, I bought Don't Sweat the Technique first, the album. And then I realized, oh, this isn't his first project. Then I got Paid in Full. I ended up borrowing it from my neighbor. And the guy, there's a lot of evidence to the fact of, and I stand by it to this day, where if your top 10 doesn't have Rakim in it, you have a top 11 with Rakim not included in it. So, and I mean that by all sincerity.
So firm on that.
So stern.
It's how I feel, yeah. And it's just a matter of
basically you're wrong.
The guy has all the boxes checked.
Yeah.
Live performances. The guy can rap with the best of them. All his albums sound incredible. There's a unique consistency to that.
Yeah.
And you could see the genesis of his rhyme style within Paid in Full. At such a young age, he found a perfect way to deliver his raps.
And sorry, can I piggyback on that real quick? There are so many hip hop artists today that reference this album. Like literally word for word reference this album. I mean, directly Eminem, Jay-Z,
Pusha
T, Busta Rhymes.
The movie Paid in Full.
The movie Paid in Full. Quentin Tarantino. Yeah. Just started. Martin Scorsese. Christopher Nolan. I'm just playing. But there's Ghostface.
Who is it? ODB.
ODB.
Yeah.
Move the crowd.
Rob Zombie. Not just. But many people have been influenced by this album in particular. to the point where it's almost overwhelming how many people reference it.
Yeah.
You know? So, the argument can go that this album just sounds kind of dated to the new general listener. But, if you were able to kind of void that idea and go back to the present time this album came out, this is some Jimi Hendrix shit, right? And what I mean by that is when Jimi Hendrix was playing back in the day, other guitarists saw him and said, this isn't making sense. It's wrong. He's playing wrong, but he's playing better than me, and I don't like that. And Rakim, to me, came off as an MC that might have come off wrong because he's not screaming on the mic. He preferred to deliver his bars calmer, chiller, with a different kind of cadence. And his recording process, I heard, was actually kind of strenuous. Even though they allowed him to do whatever he wanted to, there were some people that were like, you need to yell those bars out, right? But he chose to stick with that laid back, smooth delivery. And guess what? Changed the climate. Changed the whole climate of hip hop.
And I swear we will get to artists who do more higher energy. Because so far we've had back-to-back
lyricists.
Cool,
once we do once we do Das Effect, the Fushnikins.
We will get to those people.
Good Lord, if we do the Fushnikins, we're like, when Homeboy says hip hop,
now we gotta do NWA,
especially Das Effects too.
Public Enemy, But what Rakim represented on this album. Remember, this is his first album in a time period, guys, where we were not allowed to make albums individually, right? You can go right now, open your iPad app, get Veloco open, and record an album. Back then, they didn't have this backing. Rakim didn't even see this as a probable way to make funds. He was just like, all right, and he got an opportunity and just went with it. So, yeah, this album in particular just opens my eyes. But what about you? You ain't saying shit about you. How did you hear this album? Paid in Full?
I first heard Rakim actually through Mark. I don't know. When we were in high school, we were all in the same class. We made a video, like a kind of like a short film for class one time. And Mark played Rakim's track over at the end for the ending credits.
Final Revelation?
Oh, yeah, Final Revelation.
That was the first time I heard Rakim.
No, you know what? No, was actually...
We went up for a high five, remember? And it was a freeze frame.
Freeze frame.
Yeah, and then he started playing Rakim.
No, I wish it was, but that wasn't. So the closing credits to that one was "Step in the Arena" by Gangstar.
Yeah, it was.
Step
it was.
up,
okay,
step,
well, there was another.
Yeah, it was. It was.
There was another one,
but
it was. Rakim was somewhere in
that mix.
Yes,
yeah, absolutely.
So Mark, I mean, if you guys don't know, Mark had this ability to where we'd had to do class assignments, and you would have to write an essay or something. My man Mark would just say, "Hey, can I film a video?" Can I just film a video real quick? And will that count?
He was a filmmaker before.
Mark was a filmmaker. So wherever we would have to do something in regards to like writing an essay, this fool would just like, hey, can we just turn in a video? And he let us do it.
And then I would just get everybody included. Like, hey, they helped.
Real talk.
You guys all get A's.
I think at the time, because we were at a new high school and there were no rules yet. No rules existed because the high school was brand new. So Mark would just be like, "Hey, can I just turn in a video?" and of course it worked.
It works.
Yeah. But of course, Rakim was readily available in Mark's palette, man. But
that's how I experienced him.
If you guys don't understand how this works, man, Mark is like the anchor, the catalyst to a lot of what you see. You would even consider Mark the catalyst to lyricology, man, because he just keeps us all on our hip hop shit.
Yeah.
But you in particular, Zay, how did you get caught up in the rapture of Rakim?
Yeah, so with
the rapture,
the rapture
of Rakim.
The rapture.
Yeah, my main thing to you is like, what was your first impressions of him when you were listening to him?
Yeah,
dude's voice was like, it was so like ominous. I felt like I felt like this dude was like almost like prophetic in some ways as well. Yeah. He seemed very wise. A lot of quotables you can get, like, check out my melody. There was just a lot of things that he would say that stuck out.
Innovation.
And it's like one of those things. It's like, man, I could clip that. Like, I ain't no joke. Like, you can forever clip that.
It's not every day that you get the benefit to get samples from both the DJ and the MC.
Right.
Usually it's one or the other. The other combination I would say would be, again, we can do with Guru and DJ Premier.
Yeah. That
duo by themselves are pioneers in their own regard. And the same can be said with Eric B and Rakim. But you understand how small that list can get,
right?
Versus usually it's the rap group themselves that you can sample from, and then the producer's second thought, or the producer's the one headlining the joint, and the rap group is the aforementioned.
Like you said, he did sound older than, I guess, what he actually was at the time.
Yeah.
So that, to me, is also kind of like awing a bit, because the dude sounded like he's lived life and has been experienced. So ahead of his age, for sure.
For sure.
I did feel like you, Andre, where it wasn't something that resonated with me in the beginning, because we are in the West Coast. So I heard more like, Tupac and Bone Thugs and Harmony when I was younger, and like all this other stuff. So it was more West Coast related, Ice Cube. And so that sound didn't really like hit me like, oh yeah, let me listen to the sound. But as I grew older and listened back to Rakim, like I understood that dude was a mastermind, and he was a fiend for the mic.
That's stupid.
That's what, like,
it's like the technique. He never sweated it.
Yeah, he never sweated his technique. I felt like his technique.
Microphone
was
fiend
sweated.
though. I like
in its soul essence, like breaking it all down to one word, fiend.
I love it.
If I could add an additional word, possibly microphone.
Stupid.
Maybe.
Good.
Just maybe. But
So this week, I spent my week, like, I had a rough week, honestly, I had a rough week. When I popped in, though, Paid in Full, listening to it on my way, driving to and from work, crazy weather and everything, like, his lyrics, they actually hit home, because one of these tracks, he talks about wanting to work a 9 to 5. He wants to do something. He can't just stand around. But then when he works that 9 to 5, he's missing, the microphone. He's missing writing rhymes, going in the booth, hanging out with his friend, a plate of fish. He's missing all those things. And so he realizes, this isn't for me. I need to go back and do that. And that hit home with me, because as you know, like, I'm working on my own stuff too. I'm working on this album, but then I'm like, I have to stop. I have to go to work. But my mind is on the album. My mind's on writing. My mind's on doing something I'm passionate about. Yeah. I'm passionate about work too, but more so music is my passion. And so I totally connected with that, because I'm like, dang, I totally feel that. And so I definitely connected this week, especially listening back to Rakim. I felt like it just kind of invigorated that connection to, hip hop's patriarch for me, so it kind of like connected all these dots now. And I heard a lot of MCs by listening to him. I heard so many MCs through him.
Yes,
like, it's weird.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to get there, but as I was listening this week, I was like, damn, almost all of my favorite artists got something from Rakim.
Yeah.
I was literally hearing Eminem influence, not Eminem influencing Ra, but Rakim influencing Eminem, Rakim influencing Nas, Rakim influencing Elzai, Rakim influencing Jay Dilla. I was just hearing all of these like moments where Rakim is rapping. I'm like, future rappers took this concept and just bent it. Oh, Jay-Z, I heard a lot of Jay in there actually. I was piercing through. I was like, man, Jay-Z took a lot of moments from Paid in Full and just regurgitated them with his technique. Yeah, I was like, damn, this album is like, it's an apex. And I see all of these just points where they hit this area and they're regurgitating what came from this album. The 7 MCs line, that was Eminem. Eminem regurgitated that in Marshall Mathers LP.
That and a dedicated chorus was like, I am whoever you
say I am. Yeah. The way I am, Eminem definitely took a lot from Rakim. If you guys don't know, Eminem is essentially my Rakim in a weird way, where it's like, I got a lot of my tech from M, and then I went backwards and found Rakim, LL Cool J, Grandmaster Flash, and a lot of other guys. So Rakim, to me, when we're going to have this discussion, man, he's just going to be at the center of everything we love in one way or another, whether it be very minuscule or just conceptually. But for this album, I was doing my research and just watching interviews and documentaries and learning that this album was low-key like an accident. So, that energy is as raw as hip hop itself. Right. Because it came together hip hop. He just was like, I could spit a little, I got some bars.
It's everything hip hop.
Eric B, he could DJ, you know what I'm saying? He had the skills, you know what I'm saying? And they came together and magic happened.
Right.
Melly Mello, of course, was a huge influence of what was going on for this album.
I like how he's super low key on interviews like that, but you can tell where his true expression is. It's like, yo, this time we're like, I'm just making something now, and all of a sudden, it's like I came in the door. I said it before.
I was just there. I was just there.
It's like,
son.
but it's crazy how you could see where the true expression lies, where it's like he has an inert feeling to express himself, and that's through music, and you could see, wow, it's an explosion of talent.
Dude still got it too. Like I seen this dude on recently doing like some sort of special. Dude was still lacing it.
Oh yeah,
like,
no.
The Tiny Desk concert he did.
Tiny Desk concert was fire.
That was dope.
And what he was explaining was, Rakim was saying he's like, I get better with age. Age isn't going to slow down my progress at all. And I understood. He was like, he was explaining it at the apex of the idea that, he is that number one MC. No conceited idea, no ego involved. Rakim is like that number one, right? So he said, with that idea in mind, I'm just going to continue to write these bars. And he said, I get better. He was saying, you think an MC gets whack after 40 because we think this is a young man's game. But the reality is they get better. They just get better. Everything they do is just going to increase talent-wise. It's not like playing the guitar, which requires you to move your fingers very fast, And then let's say you get around 50, you can't move your fingers that fast, right? But as a rapper, you're just saying words. You're still speaking the same way as you normally would. So Rakim is saying his pen game just won't drop. It just keeps going higher. So to bring it back to Paid in Full, because, that's the album we're talking about, he was just saying, this is the beginning. This is where it all started. And to think about it like this, everybody, this is the debut album. They had a single, of course, but this is the album. This is the first album from Rakim. So you have to consider in, 87. I'm an 80s baby. I was born in 88. This is before I came here. But for this album to drop in the way that it did, it has left an impression on my father, my mother, my family members. This is one of them joints that's just like, it's timeless in a lot of regards. Maybe newer cats, younger guys, they'll listen to it and hear how old it sounds, but that oldness is almost a novelty now. You should be grateful, because if you considered how difficult it was to make this album, even on the producer side, we have easy tools. We have stuff today that makes this shit nothing. Back in the day, to get a sample in the song was a nightmare. So this album, the scratching, everything, if you listen to this album completely, void of any context of new albums, Eric B and Rakim work as one. Listen to the scratches and how Rakim is spitting. Everything is unified, and that's very rare. This was when the DJ mattered. So
big time. This
is the perfect example of having a perfect DJ and a perfect MC.
And I just love that era of hip hop too, man. That era, that golden age of hip hop. Mm-hmm. It was just so much being birthed at that time, man. I truly feel blessed to be even born in that time period, because it's just like the birth of technology even too. Like we are fortunate to kind of see this all start, and we even have some of the greats still living today that we're able to go catch and see still. So, even Rakim himself included. So, I think it's truly important, as a young person to just realize that, like, you're living in a time right now where you got a legend right now spitting out here. So, we have to appreciate and honor those people, because if it wasn't for them, like it might not have resulted in the way that it is now, where we all are spitting where it's taken serious. Yeah. Back in the day with, these certain rhymes, sometimes you weren't even taken seriously. You were taken more as a joke. So the way Rakim delivered it is like, man, he said it, in plain field, like, yo, this ain't a joke. Right. I'm about to come lyrical and it's serious.
Well, can I just piggyback that? He kind of broke a stereotype.
Yeah.
Remember, it's the first of its kind, guys. It's like, we have to, if you got, whoever your favorite artist is today, that first time you heard him in that moment where you said, this is so different, I have to get everything from this person, that's what Rakim did. Him and Eric B, they were doing techniques beyond the period, right? Today, it seems menial compared, like I use Jimi Hendrix all the time, right? You hear a band today or guitarists today, they use the wah-wah pedal, they use effects like it's nothing. But at that time, when Jimmy was using these effects, it almost scared people. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck are you doing to sound? I don't like it, right? So to me, Rakim and Eric B were that. resemblance.
Right.
Because Eric B at the moment, before we get to Follow the Leader, right, which is the following album, Eric B didn't know what he was doing either. Rakim still didn't know what he was doing. Rakim even details that he didn't know how to make an album. He didn't know how the process worked. He just was there. He was just handling business, right? Which is crazy. Like this is what makes this album so spectacular, because it's like it's an organic build of two artists that came together and didn't know what to do. It's almost like Mad Villainy. Sorry, it's almost like Mad Villainy, where Doom comes up to Mad Lib and they just both have a concept and they make an album out of it effortlessly in no time, right?
Right.
So in the same concept, Eric B was, hey, I know you can spit, man. You got to get on this, right? And that's why it's Eric B and Rakim, because Rakim didn't want to rap. Yeah. Rakim wanted to play football. So, when Eric B convinces him to get on, of course they get this project together, and then we have full tracks with Eric B killing it though. You know what I'm saying? And this is where you got to realize the DJ did matter back in the day. So Eric B has full tracks where he's just killing the track, doing scratches and shit in an abstract, unique way, man. It's like he would have the samples. I don't want to overtalk, my bad.
No, you're good.
But he would have the, every song in this album, we have the track running, and then Eric is scratching perfectly. Like when I say he's scratching, he's almost scratching off beat and off rhythm on purpose to show you his own unique rhythm. Yeah. The drums and everything in the sample is completely locked in on the grid perfectly, but his scratches are completely off. Yeah, it's free form, off tempo, right? The beat is boom, boom, right? But his scratches are right, completely off rhythm. In the sub rhythms and stuff. If you're a jazz musician, he's in the sub rhythms scratching. That is what made him sound unique, man. I mean, he sounded off rhythm, but he was on rhythm. And that, if you listen to all the tracks where Eric is scratching, he's scratching off rhythm perfectly. It's like the right amount of offness.
It sounds so raw too.
It sounds raw.
Different.
It sounds wrong.
Different.
It sounds deliberately wrong.
Yeah.
And that bit of wrongness comes from the idea that they technically didn't know exactly what they were doing. Yeah. That's what makes it work, man.
That's what makes it work. Sauce.
Yes, that's that juice on it, man.
And they I think did it within a week's time. Even
they were banging out tracks. The formula was a track an hour. So keep in mind that there's probably still some back office stuff that they had to take care of, but still it was done in a considerable quick amount of time.
Yeah.
But damn,
just organic.
They just messed around and made Paid in Full.
Yeah.
And messed around and did it.
And you have to pull Rakim you have to just force him to go and rap, because Eric B did discover him, and he was the one DJing way before Rakim was even rapping. So that was cool that's like the biggest assist to hip hop history. Cause you also mentioned this moment of time from 87 to 93 gives you the birth of Rakim a little bit. Big Daddy Kane predates a little bit too, but then you have the birth of the Native Tongues. You got De La Soul, Queen Latifah, A Tribe Called Quest. You just had all this conscious rap coming to the East Coast side, in the mix of your Wu-Tang Clans and all that. But damn, dude, it was really a good conscious movement. And I love the fact that when I was trying to find my sound, there was a lot of influence from Jizza. There was a lot of influence from Run DMC. But then when I started listening to the Native Tongues with like Tribe, and then Rakim helped out a lot. Just listening to that, it made me feel like it was okay to be lyrical. Like the people that I was listening to on the West Coast, that wasn't my scene. It wasn't me to get involved in that kind of stuff, because of me rapping with what I felt. I just felt like I know a lot. I know a lot of general information, so let me just bust that lyrically.
Yeah.
But back to the sound that you were hearing at that time, it was beautiful. From 87 to 93, I mean, it was on the East Coast. Oh man, you couldn't get any better, because they were just like, everyone was okay. Funny that it's like conscious rap, but everyone was like their consciousness was in unison with the idea that this is okay. It's okay to talk about your feelings. It's okay to rap about. It's okay for a lot of people to be braggadocious.
Yeah.
And
it was still at its baby period though.
Exactly.
Right? And it's like when you see a child growing up and they're doing things at an advanced level, right? It's like that child is 1 year old, but he's capable of like typing.
It's like the 1 year old in rap, I guess, right? Infantile.
It's a 1 year, but it's like an infant. It's a child, but this child is capable of like typing on a computer, like full sentences.
Yeah,
birth of genius.
I would equate it to like
calculating,
like
on
a young, very young kid, Tiger Woods. Like, you saw it in
phenoms,
him, but you knew, he was just gonna grow up and be a dragon. Like, you know.
So just the excitement of that period.
Yeah,
and that's what he's on. He's
couple
just
dogs with big paws.
Yeah.
So it's killing me to ask you, Mark, because before we get into the cover, you brought some literature with you today, and I just wanted to kind of go over. Mark is our librarian of the show right now today.
So this right here is the All Music Guide. It covers the genre of. You could get the All Music Guide for rock, jazz, what have you. I found this at the Virgin Mega Store back in early 2000s.
RIP.
I know.
And I got the, it was $17. I remember this as being $17. Yeah, and I was like, damn it. All right, fine, whatever. But this actually gave me game to back when I was a kid on actually finding like very obscure albums. Like, there's this one album that I still want to get, and for the longest time, I wasn't able to like find it anywhere. Like I would go to the Village in Claremont, I wouldn't find it there. There's this dude named Son of Berserk, and he has an album called Berserk, and apparently he's a rapper, and they're like touting it very highly in here. I've never heard of Berserk, the Son of Berserk in my life.
I haven't either.
But so you get an album, you get a book like this, and it'll put you on game for a lot of album reviews, a lot of opinions on their albums.
We need
and stuff.
like a book sponsor or something.
Right.
So we can feature.
We're running out of books, guys. We only got 8 episodes worth of books left.
Books, man.
I'm gonna start bringing the Bible. The Bible covers a lot of this. There's a lot of wisdom in this.
It's in Psalms,
and a lot of wisdom can be attributed into this Bible. They said it's the greatest. It's the greatest book ever written.
Rakim and Busta Rhymes can be found in Psalms.
Episode 23. Mark brought the Bible again.
All right, so let's go into the cover of the album. Go ahead, Mark. You could kind of show it off.
Yeah. So you have the fun fact about the Gucci outfits that they have. Those aren't actual legit Gucci outfits in the cover. I don't know about the gold ropes though. The gold ropes may be theirs. They may be gold. Perhaps. I don't know.
Maybe.
But man, you're looking at the idea of paid in full. These guys are paid out in cash. Look at that background, baby.
Like, it's very obvious.
Eric B
like,
got a wad of hundreds, ready for.
What do you get? What do you get out of that, Andre?
I love it,
man. I'm a black man. I saw 2 niggas and some money in the background. That's all I saw, man. I ain't gonna lie. That's what I saw. But at the time, you know, in particular, this just was another representation of a hip hop album. But remember, I didn't check out this album till I was educated. So when I first saw it, it just looked like I was past No Limit at that point, right? So no disrespect, this was like early.
Like the first No Limit.
This is like the first No Limit cover, son. No, that's what it reminded me of. Just absolutely, 2 cats and some money, bro. Totally like that's all it is, man. Yeah. So at the time, man, I zipped past it, you know. But this actually is highly representative of the culture at the time.
Yeah, everything. Big Daddy Kane used to dress like that.
Yeah, this is completely representative of what was going on. So in regards to what we believed in, this is hip hop in a nutshell, man.
They're just missing like a Kangol hat.
A Kangol. They need a cane. A Kangol and a cane.
Cocaine in the cover. That too.
You know, I see that, you know, they're fresh to death, basically.
Rakim doesn't even look 19 in that. He looks like 20, 28 years old in that.
Both of them are on point. Like
he been rapping.
It's like they had
lying about his age like Dominican baseball players. Right. He's 18.
It's like they had manicures. Like they got fresh
manicures. That's what he sees.
Fresh to death, though.
Fresh to death, though.
Yeah. Solid cover, man.
On point.
It is a generalization of hip hop album covers.
They got the bread. I think the most thing that I get from this conceptually is like they know that if all this doesn't mean anything if they're not getting paid. Right. You know, that's what I get in a nutshell out of this when I look at this. Like all this is for a purpose, and it's to get paid. It's
like the end result
it's the mechanism to get them to get paid.
Yeah,
you know,
no, they're paid and full. They're full, paid and full. You know what I'm saying? They're full in their stomachs, and they're also paid.
On the back, they also have a picture of, I think, more of like the group, like people who maybe have been around them at the time of recording or so.
It's a representation of what they are without the physical bodies. It's just chains, cigars, and microphones.
There is a stamp on here.
It says watches.
There's a stamp where it's like paid in full, basically.
Yeah.
I like that. It does remind me, Mark, of there was a time at work where we would.
I think this is past the statute of limitations. We're okay.
This is past the statute of limitations for sure. We would sell a service by replacing, their screen, helping them repair the screen, which isn't technically in the SKUs to do.
Right.
And so there was no way to tender that out because that's not something we do. So instead of that, we would write paid in full on a bunch of receipts and staple it together.
Yeah.
So we would put paid in full. And
the customers would get a repaired screen, but they'd also, at the exchange
walk out
of
with the Bluetooth.
Walk out with the Bluetooth and that same amount of money. Like, hey, we'll repair your screen, but here, take this Bluetooth.
It's not our proudest. It's not our proudest
Take
moments.
this water receipt.
Right.
It's real life in a nutshell.
It's a learning experience for me to
But
turn away from the
it was an Easter egg to the album. Like, we were like, let's write our favorite album on the receipts.
Yeah, let's honor
Rakim real quick.
Oh man,
shout out to Eric B.
So great. So now I want to explain to everybody who's listening that we decided to trim the fat a bit. We were going track by track originally, but I think the team and I we felt like, doing it is a lot on a weekly basis, and sometimes different albums might require even harder work, which means maybe 19 tracks, or some might be less. But all in all, we felt that it just would work better if we each chose 3 tracks. That we would be able to get better understanding and
more
better,
detail.
More detail to the track for everybody, and we would also have a good spread, because if each among us 3 chose 3 tracks, we would generally just about kind of cover the idea of the album for the most part. So we just felt that would be the best and most efficient way to cover these albums.
Yeah. The MF Doom, when we covered MM Food, it was a 7-hour video. We watched the analytics. You guys are dropping off by the 6th hour, and we're not going to go past 6 hours. We realized 6 hours is enough, so we decided to just kind of condense what we had available for you guys. So hopefully it'll be down to maybe 4 hours.
At least that's what we're trying to.
We're trying to shoot down to 4.
Yeah, we're trying to squeeze it down to.
This is part 3 of our paid in full series. Hour 3.
An hour per song, right? That's what we dedicate, an hour per song, and we realize
it gets like that sometimes. And with looking at the timestamps that we had for food, it was granted we were dealing with an MC that is so layered, in fact, that we were constantly like verbally drilling into their song for a long amount of time.
Yeah, you can have so much to say about one track, and it's like, oh, now we got to do another one.
Yeah,
and it's just so deep. It's not as efficient, and sometimes it'll cause us to lack in thoroughness or details or things we want to touch on, and like we won't be able to now because we spent so much time on this. And
so Stephen Curry status, son. All 3s, man. We doing 3s, son.
Expending that kind of energy ain't no joke.
Good segue.
So wait. All right. So which 3 are we gonna cover? So me and Mark, we agreed that we have I Ain't No Joke, I Know You Got Soul, and Eric B is President. Yeah. So we got I got mad detail.
I believe you have 2 out of those 3.
I got Paid in Full, As the Rhyme Goes On, and Move the Crowd.
Nigga, you did every song we didn't do. True. So we got 6 songs.
Yeah.
But so in the future, that's the game. We're just trying to, we're gonna gamble and see if we can at least get lucky and see if we all have the same 3 favorites.
So if the 3 favorites like me and Andre mesh in, now we have the other 3 on Isaiah's side.
Right. So if you want to go in order, man, we got to start with I Ain't No Joke.
Let's take turns. Like, you guys go on one, and then I'll talk about one, and we'll go back and forth.
Oh, that's fine. All right, so I Ain't No Joke. All right, so first track of the album.
Man.
Remember, this is the debut track.
Imagine having some good subwoofers to this one.
Oh yeah. No, man, no, you gotta have a boombox. You gotta go right there.
Gosh.
You gotta hit the avenue and have it with you, man. And really think about it. If I could talk more on the production and the mixing, right? If you guys listen to this album, it really does sound mixed in a way where it sounds like you're in the stadium, right?
Yeah.
Or in a big space, like a
lot
lot
boxer walking out to this song.
Exactly. A lot of the music on this album is produced in a way. I mean, you guys can say it's amateur. They're on an amateur level, but from where they started from, whatever Eric B in his mind wanted to happen, he wanted to sound like you were at the party. So when you listen to the mix on this one, it's a lot of reverb. It's a lot of echo reverb, like plate reverb. So it's like, like the sound, and then the following effect is the reverb itself. So it's a lot of those sounds, which makes it sound like you're in a big stadium or like a big room. So a lot of the songs, the beat, the drums, everything sounds like you in there at the party, rocking with him. So this rock him with him. But yeah, so this whole situation, if you listen to this, all this wordplay. So if you listen to this entire album, just peep in your mind that the mix almost feels catered to people on the block with boomboxes playing it outside on the streets, or people playing it in a venue. And this is before we had people today that were able and capable of doing club mixes. This is pre-club mix. This is them doing it by hand, all by themselves. So give them the points for that. Eric B and Rakim killed this shit, man.
Yeah, this is definitely their moment in time. It's a taste of what it was in the late '80s with that kind of sound in it. I love the fact that they started off with this track because it just sets you up with
just drums. You get that.
No
you get
joke.
That bass.
I used to let the mic smoke, like.
Now I slam it when I'm done to make sure it's broke, right?
Good God.
So what does that mean though? Like at the time, this is the early, these are seedlings of lyricism.
True,
seedlings of lyricism, right? So, everybody says I leave the mic smoking, right? So what is Rakim trying to do to sound completely out of the box compared to the MCs? I'm going to destroy it even further after letting it smoke. I didn't spit to the point where it's on fire, but I'm going to throw it on the ground. Now it's destroyed. Come on,
no
man.
One's coming up after me.
Right. So he's trying to one up all the next MCs. And that's what he had said in the Red Bull interview. Bull interview, he just broke it down. He's like, everything MCs was doing, I was trying to go to the next level. Right.
Because you can imagine how bad you are enough if you have the mic smoking. That means you're fired.
Yeah, you fired. You're good.
Fired. But if you are so bad that not only that, I'm going to destroy this whole
I'm going to throw the mic on the ground. So he premiered mic dropping one, right? Mic dropping wasn't a thing yet. Like really, for real. It's he invented mic dropping. Yeah. So mic dropping, bam. So he destroys the mic. So the following lines make sense now, right? And this is some shit once again, back to the Jizza thing I was talking about before. We think, especially back in that day, we thinking in only singles, non sequiturs. We don't know what a couplet is. We haven't developed couplets yet. We haven't developed quatrains, which is 4 bars. We haven't developed that yet. So it's just punch, punch every bar. So to me, Kim was what he was doing. He was creating miniature narratives about himself per setup, right? So he's like, a lot of MCs I run the party, I keep y'all moving, right? Rakim is like, I'm so above running a party that I run the world because I'm a god, right? Because I'm Rakim. So he said, okay, yeah, after now I slam it when I'm done and make sure it's broke, right? When I'm gone, no one gets on because I won't let nobody press up and mess up the scene I set. Because he created this shit. Rakim, I created the scene, right? Rakim made the scene.
A little later in the song, too.
He destroyed the mic, so you can't even follow up. You can't even spit after him. That's how dope Rakim is.
Later in the song, too, he's like, remember me, the one you got your idea from?
Right.
Oh, man. So it's a 19-year-old trailblazer just setting the precedent for dude, this guy. You hear that for the first time, you're shocked at the fact of the youth of the man. You're shocked at the lyrical skill of the man. And it being 1987,
there is no lyrical skill.
The precedent is Run DMC, and they're about the party. They're not. They're all respect to Run DMC, but their lyrical skill is what their weakness is. But now you have the contrast of great lyrical skill off the jump, and I ain't no joke.
What do you want to say though? It's the idea is simple. Rakim's concept is I don't want to yell at you, right? I'm the king of rock. There is none higher, right? Impacts. Yeah. Those are impacts. And at that period, people were rapping in hard impacts. Everybody's yelling at you with specific impacts in a poetic fashion, right? So all the rhymes usually were where the yelling is at. So Rakim is like, I'm not gonna yell at you. Imagine that. Like he's already breaking the construct of what we thought rap was already, right? I mean, think. No offense, y'all. Think like a white person. You've been running rock for years, and this rap genre pops up, and it's trash to you. To you as a musician, you're like, we work hard on what we're doing. These guys are just saying words, right? And the beats are just bass. There's no musicianship to what they're doing, right? Yeah. So, they were completely shunned in that concept. So Eric B, to me, bent the construct of what a producer is. And I feel like Rakim also bent the construct of what an MC is, right? An MC is supposed to run the party at this particular time, right? So Run DMC, of course, yeah, they're running the party. They're just trying to keep your body moving. They're trying to keep everybody dancing, right? They're very rooted. This is like very roots hip hop
with their own DJ as well as your Jam Master Jay. They also had all that too. So they still had the kind of the blueprint of what Eric B and Rakim did minus one more MC.
Yeah. But Eric B and Rakim to me felt like they didn't want you to just dance.
Exactly.
They wanted They wanted you to consider the words being said, and that is the angle. That's the angle where others were like, "Damn, I didn't think I'd have a motherfucker thinking about what I'm saying. I just wanted them to dance, right?" So to me, Rakim considered a layer that we consider regularly today, but back then it was like, I want them to do more than dance. I want them to think about what I said, right? And that's where we get this. This album is like a gift, but if you're not in that time period where it drops and you don't have a respect for the shit, then it's just gonna be a whack album to you. No disrespect. It just sounds old. It sounds old. But if you understand the how ahead it sounded at its time, then you would realize this shit is the reason why we have a whole new sound in hip hop. You know what I'm saying?
A good thing too about this album is that there's no dated timestamps as far as like explaining the years of a lot of things. The one thing that does show up and kind of shows the weakness of this album would be the production value. It does sound dated in that regard. But lyrically it's like, oh dude, it holds up. The DJ skills hold up.
Yeah.
But it's just the sound behind it. It's the sound engineering, at that time.
I feel like sometimes too, it's like, sometimes I feel like, this is my opinion, but I feel like sometimes we have to also kind of like train our ears to realize what we're listening to. Because sometimes it's easy to miss, what you're really hearing too. And the importance and, what's being said and, realizing that this is just it's a classic and it's hard to miss because you might think, oh, it's dated.
Yeah, you catch yourself at a lot of times just reciting the lyrics.
Yeah.
And then when you go back and actually listen or even read out the lyric sheet, you're like, wow, it's
deep.
It's a lot deeper than I'm spitting. Because, you play I Ain't No Joke, and I'm just going to say it all word for word, all of it, all the time. But it's like when I actually slow down and not hear the instrumental, I get lost a little bit because I need that beat. Yeah. I need all that with it. So
to piggyback what Mark was saying, right? Deep concentration, because I'm no comedian, right? So deep concentration, a guy that's concentrated, serious face, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm no comedian. Jokers are wild if you want to be tame, right? So there was a show called Jokers Wild at that time that was very popular, right? But Jokers Wild was a card game. But Jokers Are Wild connects to the comedian line, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Think about these are like very early versions of scheming, guys. Y'all know what a scheme is. So yeah, deep concentration because I'm no comedian. The connection to comedian, he's serious, right? Jokers, right? That's a comedy concept. Jokers are wild if you want to be tame, right? Jokers wild is a comparison to that game. Yeah. Tame rhymes with game. I treat you like a child when you're gonna be named, right? So he's got the Papa bar, right? And that's the Rakim. Ra is like the father of everything because Ra is the sun god, right? Mm-hmm. So I treat you like a child when you're gonna be named because you're my son. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna name you.
Yeah.
Now think about this. In that period of time, how many people were able to assimilate and connect these dots at that particular time? I don't think that people were connecting dots like that because we didn't know what the shit was yet, right? We didn't know how to connect metaphors and wordplay and stuff like that. So Rakim probably did something at that time. Maybe some people hear it today and go, it just sounds old. But when it first came out, it was hitting ears and making people go crazy. So deep concentrates, I'm no comedian. Jokers are wild if you want to be tame. I treat you like a child. I mean, look at how many things are rhymed too. Concentration, comedian, jokers are wild. Jokers are wild if you want to be tame. Treat you like a child if you're gonna be named. So want to be tamed, gonna be named. That amount of syllables is way different. Want to be tamed, that's 4. Gonna be named, that's 4. It's a really large syllable count for that time. A lot of the guys at the time were doing, in rhymes and only in rhymes. Internals weren't really a big deal. So they were just landing in rhymes at the end of the bar, right? So I'm the illest alive. I'm the illest in fact. So niggas is punks, niggas is whack, right? The end. That's what they have. But here he's got so many layers in these small little portions. He changed the game. It's like Nas on Illmatic. It's like, how did he come up with these ideas? Right. So when we pull back some years, we end up at Paid in Full. This is what we get here. Fire. It's just fire.
I love in this track how he starts to take place. He starts to go like out of body almost. And he talks about, first he's talking about like how he wants to be on the stage. He's rapping and everything. But then I like how he goes into he goes into a different avenue. He goes, I like to stand in the crowd and watch the people wander. I'm like, why would you like to stand in the crowd now? Like you were on the stage, you were rapping, but now he likes to stand in the crowd and just like watch the people wander. Like, I'm like, man, this cat is very observant.
Both sides of the spectrum.
He's observant of the crowd. He's observant of the MC, especially the whack MCs. He's observant of what they're doing. And he's saying, I'm watching you. I'm waiting for you to say something. And you're fake. Give me the mic. Let me take control of this. Yeah, that's what I love about Rakim here, as I'm getting an introduction to kind of his psyche a little bit about like how he's observant, how he's a patient dude, waiting for you to come with something. And because he doesn't see it, he realizes that he has to take it in his own hands and he has to bring it,
And conceptually, it's like battle oriented, right, as far as the perspective of writing, but it is also still in a concept of partying and dancing.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas, today is like, it's so, today's music, if you're going to be a battle artist, it's so battle oriented that we have no concept of the party anymore. I'm just destroying some random guy, right? You're the wackest MC, I'll blast you and leave or whatever, right? You're nobody, right? But in the context of what Rakim is doing, he's seeing that everybody's rapping about the party and he just wants to do one part higher. In the interview that I was watching, it's kind of a funny interview. When you watch the Red Bull interview, it's like Rakim can't describe his ability, right? So they're like, hey, yo, so, when you wrote Paid in Full, what was your psyche when you put together that project? And Rakim is like, I was saying, we was in the studio, I wrote it down.
Just describing his actions.
No, but it's the most simple shit. I just wrote it down.
That is almost every interview that he does.
That's all he said. I just wrote it down.
So crazy.
I was just trying to come from a perspective no other MCs came from, and that's the result. That's all he says.
Know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So in reality, Rakim is, all his answers is literally this answer. And what he's saying on the bigger spectrum of things is, I literally watched this game and studied it. And anything I saw at the time, I just wanted to do higher than that. So this context of what he's doing is every MC at the time was rapping about rocking the party, making the party the best. So Ra went another level higher, talking about like, I can run this whole party, I can run the city type shit. He just took it another level higher. You rocking parties, I'm rocking cities, man.
Yeah.
I forget who he's dissing in the song, but this is it's not a definitive diss track, but a lot of people have attributed it to a certain, I forget who was the person that or the group that he was supposedly dissing, because there's real subtle jabs in here where it's your offbeat DJ. If anything he plays sound familiar, I'll wait till Issei play him. And so I'm a half a diss and broke. You can get a smack for this. I ain't no joke. So there's definitely somebody that he had in mind for this song, or as long as, even if you keep a general, he's probably either that or he's casting a wide net, which you do catch a lot more fish that way.
Or just kind of a warning, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but
true.
Overall, he made whatever MC that attempted to follow him feel like a failure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When you start to stutter, that's when you had enough. Biden will make you choke. You can't provoke. You can't cope. You should have broke because I ain't no joke, right? But think about it like this. The
Sounds
connection,
so hard,
the
man.
connection to stutter, right, which is the inability to speak, and then biting him, but you choke, right?
Yep.
So once again, it goes back to the stuttering. So these connections, like we make it sound trivial now, but back in the day, just imagine you being in that period of time, 1987, hearing these lines and not having any context of what he's saying.
Have to rewind the tape back
Right, having
on
to
it.
rewind the tape, you know what I'm saying, and really
Crazy.
try to understand what he's saying, you know what I mean? So this is a period of time also where actually lyrics were still at that point of being considered the most, right? I mean, the beat moves you to dance, but this one people were listening to the words. Nowadays, nobody is listening to lyrics, not a single person. So back in that day, I feel like people were catching Ron, man. He was on it, man. Got a question as serious as cancer. Who could keep the average dancer hyper as a heart attack? Nobody smiling because you're expressing the rhyme that I'm styling. So, I mean, look at the connections. I got a question as serious as cancer, right? So he's proposing a question in rhyme form. How often did that happen? Not very often. So he proposed a question in rhyme form. Who can, and then the answer to the question is who's the best, basically, right? So who can keep the average dancer hyper as a heart attack, right? The answer is just as serious as cancer. A heart attack is as serious as cancer, right? So who can keep the average dancer hyper as a heart attack, right? Nobody's smiling because cancer and a heart attack are something you can't smile at, right? So nobody's smiling because you're expressing the rhyme that I'm styling. So his style is sick as cancer and a heart attack. So think about that. Nobody, like at the time, who the fuck was breaking down bars? I'm normal to y'all now, right? Breaking down shit is normal from my perspective. But back then, back in the day, we're at the party, right? And we're hearing this shit. It's like, I got a question serious as cancer. Yeah. Who could keep the average dancer? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you have to be high or something to
no,
like really start
you
like
have to
going
be
into
there.
like, oh wow.
You have to
really
be
understand
there.
what he's saying, or even just a direct question like, hey, like, what'd you mean by all that?
The concept back in the day,
yeah.
though, to formulate a question as a bar, right?
Yeah, to pose it off the jump too, right. Like to start off
we're
the
at the
verse.
beginning of the technology.
The thing is, it's funny because like I like to do that in my raps, like formulate a question. There's other raps used to do that too, but I didn't realize that he was doing that back then too.
Man, no, this is where I'm at. I'm at the technology. So we're looking at like Windows 98, and we're gonna see what it becomes later. But I mean, Windows 98 is essential. Right. Yep. So I mean, what we have, the EMCEE, don't even try to be when you come up to speed. Don't even lie to me. So wait. Once again, new technology. Other cats at this time were not rhyming like Rakim, right? So the EMCEE, don't even try to be. When you come up to speak, don't even lie to me. Don't even try to be. That's a 5-syllable rhyme. Back then, if you heard this for the first time, you go, wait, nah, what did he do? You'll run this shit back over and over. That's what made these Eminems and all these cats that you saw in the future. Rakim was rhyming on
planting the seeds, man.
Next level, baby. He was rhyming on the next level, man.
Rakim Appleseed.
Yeah, rock him, man. Rock him, man. Hit him hard, rock him. So yeah, real dope shit, man. Shout to my man Rakim, man.
All right.
If I've ever met Rakim, I'd beat his ass.
I want to see him. I hope he comes around it again so we could catch a show.
Perform
Rock the Bells 08 was the last time I saw him. That was long.
Me and Mark were trying to plan up another show for us to go to, but
he had a foot injury. Yeah, he injured his ankle or whatever.
Yeah,
that was a trip, man. I was like, damn, we're gonna see Rakim in Santa Ana, man. That would have been dope.
Yeah, it
was
sick.
I think he was gonna do. He usually just does all the solo ventures. Like he'll do the 18th Letter. He'll do the.
I don't care what he does.
Yeah, the 18th Letter. That's one of his best albums, man.
So I chose Paid in Full. Mm-hmm. And this is the 6th track of the album. Eric B talks to Rakim in the beginning of the track, and they establish, basically that they got everything they need. They got the agent, the agency, the record company. They even got
shameless promotion for all that. Right?
Yeah, they even got
something's our agent.
They even got Rush, who is
Rush Town Management
for Russell Simmons. They got the dope beat. All they need now is just some dope rhymes, so they could get paid in full. And it's a beautiful setup to this track. I like the fact that you established the chemistry, you know, and I like that throughout this album. You know, you could tell they're working together. They're in the same place at the same time, putting together this
classic,
joint.
A good highlight reel for Eric B as far as his DJ skills too. A lot more than Rakim's lyrical skills. Like I think this is Eric B's forefront with his production skills and his DJ skills.
Oh yeah. If anybody listens, you know, if you have any context of music theory, just like the drums and the essential samples and the chops and everything's gonna be on time, right? You know, 4/4. Everything's gonna be right on time. But his scratching, chopping, anything in regards to scratching on the spot and DJing on the spot, he's not 100% on rhythm, and it's not a bad thing. He's choosing these beats that we don't typically land on, right? There's, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Boom, clap. Boom, clap. He's scratching between the boom and the clap, right? And it to me, it adds an individualistic nature to Eric B at that time, right? Because there were so many DJs. And to me, this is the one moment I was listening today, actually, and yesterday, and I was like, that's what made Eric different, because he's scratching on a whole different tempo. He's scratching on a different timing. So some people with no rhythm will say he's scratching off beat. He's not. He's scratching in a different rhythm that's perfect to the beat that you're hearing. So shout to Eric on that shit, man. And they only get better after this album.
Yeah, and one of the cool stories is like I guess Eric B was digging through some crates or whatever. He found a sample he was going to use, and once he told Rakim what sample he was going to use, he literally Rakim couldn't stop laughing. Like, you're gonna use what? Like laughing. Like, right, yeah. And he goes, no, watch. You're gonna be laughing. Eric B's telling him, you're gonna be laughing all the way to the bank because we're about to go far with this. So Eric B knew what was up, but Rakim at the time didn't really realize, like, this is almost laughable that you're about to mix a sample in here, but all right, go for it. Like, and so I love how they experimented. This beat, by the way, is a very classic beat, man. This bass line,
I've heard a lot of MCs too just thinking of a master plan. It's nothing but sweat inside my hands. They use that all the time.
Yes.
This album, including with the song "Paid in Full," is just, you can hear. It echoes. It echoes to
perfect word.
It echoes. MCs.
You hear it in so many different artists and so many different projects, down to Ludacris, bro. Like, there's just so many different people that got something from Rakim.
It almost feels like that bass line could just live on forever. Too.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, you could loop the instrumental the whole day, and it's just, you don't get bored of it.
It has the right energy as well. Like, when I listen to a track like that, it makes me want to get up. It makes me want to like do something, like, you know, it gives me energy, this beat, like, but at the same time, it is kind of laid back and chill.
Yeah, the BPMs aren't too crazy, even to have you, even for it to be like promoted as like an energetic song, but still you just feel it.
You feel the energy in it. Yeah, like something's brewing. Like,
you wouldn't commit grand larceny to this song, you know, but you would.
The level of offenses you'd commit aren't
like petty theft.
Severe,
it would be petty theft, baby.
Yeah. Grand larceny, not so much. Save that for deep cover. Save that for deep cover.
So in this track, I chose this one because. In here, it's so cool because Rakim's talking about, you know, thinking of a master plan, you know.
Because I ain't got nothing but sweat inside my hand.
He's basically saying, like, he's out here, he has to do something to get the dead presidents.
Yeah.
By the way, that alone, the dead presidents thing, that's been referenced as well.
Whole ass movie.
But think about it from the beginning, you know. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna keep doing this. You're gonna get annoyed, but just think about it like you've never heard the phrase "dead presidents" before. So when you hear it for the first time, it's like, what the fuck is a dead president? And really believe, you can't Google it. You have to really sit there and do some work or ask somebody. What is a dead president? What are you talking about? Talking about money, man.
People only privy to the slang.
I mean, paid in full is already its own situation. But you know, we had hood idioms, hood slang. And those were only expressed at the time through the music. So you would never have heard these hood idioms if you weren't in the hood until you heard this track. You know what I'm saying? So
just a cool way to say it too.
Exactly.
These
it's just swag.
presidents, yeah.
It's just swag. And I think it's early forms of swag where other people didn't have. Now, could I ask you this? Did you feel like this was a motivational track, like to get people to get their bread up?
I did feel this was a motivation. For me, for sure. I was just like, I connect with that. Like, you know, the money's out here. It's like, you know, all we got to do is just go get it, basically.
Somewhere.
Yeah, it's out there.
Somewhere.
Yeah. So it definitely was a motivation track. I could listen to this, get up, you know, I could listen to this first thing in the morning. I could pop this in, listen to this. This will get me motivated.
Get some money.
To get some money for the day.
I used to be a stick up kid, so I think of all the devious things I did.
I used
right.
to roll up. This is a
I
whole up.
I like this because he's going into the storytelling where
he could go back to the negative.
Right, go into the negative of how he was getting the money. Then I like how he switched to positive. He was like, you know, I'm trying to look for a 9 to 5 now.
Like, and if I strive, then maybe I'll stay alive.
Yeah,
knowing
stay
that
alive.
the other, knowing that the other routes.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, okay, you know, it's gonna go 9 to 5, but I mean, really, is that what we're trying to do? Is that the goal, 9 to 5? And then that's when he comes back to, well, this ain't for me. You know, I prefer going back and getting on the pen, writing my rhymes, getting on the mic. You know, I'm feeling it like, but he goes at the same time when I'm doing that, this is all for nothing if I'm not getting paid.
Exactly. A pen and a paper, stereo tape, me and Eric B and a nice big plate of fish, which is my favorite dish.
Right. Without no money,
that's still a wish. Right. So, I mean, that, you know, that whole piece of knowledge, I would say, is straight up, man. I feel like at the time, man, if anything, it motivated other people.
He slows his cadence down and sounds a whole lot wiser. Well, it leaves the availability to sound a lot wiser.
Well, it's on the same level. I feel like we are all like, it's
the beat garners that too.
Beat garners that for sure, but the lyrics themselves also feel like we are on the same journey as them. Yeah. It doesn't feel like I'm an isolated adventurer and you guys are observing me. It's like I'm just like you doing the same. Yeah, and that's. I mean, it sucks to keep talking about it, but it's like that's early tech that we use commonly today. I wish we could recreate the first time hearing this and actually go to 87 and hear this for the first time, because I know
it'd be different.
Everything about it. The beats too. People say the beats sound old, but if you like at that time, if you would have heard those beats and the way he was scratching, this shit sound alien, man. This shit just didn't sound right. It sounded like some Dr. Dre shit back then.
It's almost like you have to kind of be there kind of thing. And it sucks the way we're talking about it because we're retrospectively talking about it. But it's one of those things where you have to be there in the moment to really know.
Yeah, it's homework.
So I like how how also Rakim goes on talking about, you know, now it's the test. Now it's time to see if my rhymes can really pull and if this can really work out. You know, I'm going to hit the studio because I'm paid in full.
The title track, man.
And I heard there was a little controversy with that, like something about, you know, them not really getting paid in full, so they had to sue or something like that too. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but, you know, I thought it was kind of a little funny to the moment because they're really trying to get paid in full is what they're really trying to do.
They're going for it with all their might.
From what I mean, like, who makes a track about getting paid in full and you get cut short, right? So it's like, nah, this is for real. Like, we're trying to I ain't no joke. Like, I'm trying to get paid in full for real.
Yeah, I think anything, the biggest thing that stands out is they didn't stay consistent with 4th and Broadway. They ended up going to, let me see, the only two consecutive labels the only two consecutive albums that they went back to back with a record label was MCA when they did, I believe Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em and Don't Sweat the Technique were the consecutive. The first two albums they go with 4th and Broadway, and then I think it's Universal or UNI, whatever that is. Sounds like Universal, but it could be an issue with that where they were just jumping labels the first two albums, and then MCA was like, come on board, we got you.
I also thought it was kind of, and this is just my own little humor to it. I know he probably didn't mean it to be humorous, but I like how sometimes though, as I'm listening to this, it's kind of funny to me because it always seems like Rakim's trying to tell people like, stop laughing. I'm not a joke. Yeah. Like, you know,
ain't no game.
Because he was saying that line that I used to roll up. This is a hold up. ain't nothing funny. Stop smiling. Like it's almost like somebody's like,
you gonna rob me, nigga? What you rock him, bro? I know you.
It's like, don't take me serious. Like,
Yeah.
Take me serious while I get your money from you, son.
But that was just a little bit of humor out of that I got while I'm listening back to it. But no, I think this track though it really holds up. Till this day, still holds up. It's very relatable. The beat's banging. And, you know, I feel like this was the track out of the album. I mean, this was what the title of the album was called ultimately. And, you know, I think they really killed it, man. Both of them. Eric B brought it as well, just as equally as Rakim brought it. Eric B brought it.
And the scratch breaks are really important. We don't have them like that today. So, you know, when you listen to what he was doing back then, the scratch breaks were really important. Shit was fire, man.
Yeah, super fire.
For my next one, I had I Know You Got Soul for my next favorite. And it was, to me, I just wrote classic drum loop that drives you crazy. With a classic drum roll and just the James Brown guitar loop. At this time, James Brown was like, to be sampled was kind of fresh. You know, it was like one of the first cats really chopping up James Brown and working with it. So that's why I made this shit just hit so hard. And then it's been a long time. I shouldn't have had you. I shouldn't have left you. Shouldn't have had you. It's an abortion song. Shouldn't have had you.
It's all holding the baby.
It's been a long time.
Shouldn't have had you.
The anthem.
Have a strong one to step to. Think of how many week shows you
spending all this time to dad you. But yeah, so yeah, just classic opening though. It's like one of the most classic openings. I think they rewrote these first 8 bars. Timbaland and Missy Elliott rewrote the first 8 bars of this track on Drop That Shit or something like that, Pop That Shit. Forgot the name of the song, but Timbaland rewrote and just rhymed everything back with this. Really? And just rewrote everything. So as you hear it, hand on the dial tune, as you hear it, pump up the volume.
Pump up the volume.
Yeah. That's so Timbaland did the same thing, but he just rhymed different words, but still landed on all the same spots for about 8 bars.
And Pump Up the Volume's been used in
Pump Up the Volume been used in everything. So many samples
on that.
House tracks, dance tracks. So yeah, it's classic. You can't overlook this track. The beat is ridiculous. The beat is infectious. But it's one of those songs. It's like, if you're gonna mention this album, this is part of it. This is the math. You know what I'm saying? I believe, if I'm correct, this is the second single from the album.
Right. Yes.
All right. So yeah, it's the second single from the album. After Eric B is president, and it just rocked the house, man.
He has I believe if you get everything all total, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 verses, and this is a show. This is an actual great display of Rakim's lyricism. Mm-hmm. He does lyricism in every form, whether he takes it in a mainstream sense and an underground sense. There's a lot of depth to what he's saying in this particular song. Mm-hmm. I'd say this is the most that you'll get out of him in this whole album. Mm-hmm. But I like how the beat dedicates it to him vocally.
Oh yeah, but no, to follow what you were saying, picture a mic, right? I mean, if you guys aren't visualizing yet, remember it's the 80s. We don't know what's going on. You know, we're still getting the hang of this rap shit. So picture a mic, the stage is empty. A beat like this might tempt me to pose, show my rings and my fat gold chain, grab the mic like I'm on Soul Train, right? So the idea is just him being the party rocker, right? Yeah. But he takes it to just a step above at that time. So not to, hit the same bell, but he's just doing everything he can to be above his peers at the time. Right? It sounds like party joints, but I mean, picture a mic, the stage is empty. A beat like this might tempt me. So there's nobody, the stage, he's the one that's going to rap on this shit, right? Picture a mic and there's nobody on the stage to rap on the mic. So of course the beat is going to make me want to do something about it because this beat is so fly. So a lot of the time he's just giving Eric B the love, right? A lot of rappers today, they just praise themselves and they give like a slide to the producer. You crazy for this one. And then just go for, oh man, they gonna die after this. Right, whatever they say, right? But in reality, to me, Rakim made Eric B part of the process. He's in the group. It's a group.
Yeah.
So he made it happen. But today, we don't have that no more, Deep concept. Wait, I went to the wrong line. I went to the old song.
I'm on think about it. Wait, erase your rhyme, forget it, and don't waste your time, because I'll be in the crowd if you ain't controlling it. Drop the mic. You shouldn't be holding it.
There we go.
There's a lot of love to it.
So Rakim is also saying, like, I'm the guy that's always on stage on the mic, but I'm also in the crowd. I'm everywhere.
I love that.
I'll be there
everywhere.
It's kind of like out of body. Like,
right.
He's here, he's there.
The God is everywhere. You can't avoid Rakim, and I think that's what he is, you know?
One of my favorite lines from this one that really hit me when I was listening to it was the last line on the first verse, I think. He says, when I'm writing, I'm tapped in between the lines, and then I escape when I finish the rhyme. And I totally feel that because as a writer, sometimes you feel kind of like you're kind of bound to these, to writing, like you're bound to it until you finish it, where you finally feel free and liberated. And like that line just hit for me as a writer, because I'm like, man, dude knows exactly what it feels like, because he was talking about it in here, how he's trapped in between the lines. And sometimes that's how I felt before when you're writing. It's like, I gotta finish
in the
this.
lines
like,
of the notepad.
Yeah, like people don't understand,
cool,
like, I gotta finish this to feel free again. And so that line just hit me as particularly.
It's like was it the Telltale Heart? It's like a version of the Telltale Heart where you just, instead of actually hearing something beating and like you get annoyed by it, it's actually it's a device that you've created. It's the notepad, and it's your creative skill that's
trap.
like keeping you bound, and you're like, oh my God. But you feel so compelled to finish it, and then when you finish, feel elated. That it's and free.
How do you guys feel about these associations, these connections he made? Whoever's out of hand, I'm going to give them handles. Right? If you're out of hand, right, then you don't have it handled. I'm going to give you a handle, right? Light them up, blow them out like candles. Listen, man, this is early, man. This shit is hard to do back then.
I like how he said, or I can let them melt. Like,
exactly though. Light them up, blow them out, or I could melt, or I could just let them melt, right? I could just keep the flame lit on them until they melt to nothing, because they can't handle my fire, bro. So I'm like, this is the type of shit that I think about. It's like, back then, we weren't able to connect and associate on this level, right? We might only catch the small stuff, light them up, blow them out like candles. Oh, that's tight. But the average listener back then was not going to connect the next line to, or should I let them melt? They wouldn't even know what that meant.
Right.
They wouldn't even understand that it was associated to the candle part, because we weren't thinking that way. So nowadays, it's like, damn, he's been scheming since the beginning, man. And then after whoever's out of hand, I'm going to give them handles, right? The last line of this little set is, then I'm going to give them a hand so they can see how it felt. So, I mean, he knows what he's doing, right? Whoever's out of hand, I'm going to give them handles, light them up, blow them out just like candles. Or should I just let them melt, then give them a hand so they can see how it felt? So,
the time of when this is written.
The people weren't like, because I said this about Jizza as well. It's like he was doing some shit that if you listen to it back then, you know, it would actually take a few listens to catch these what some would consider simple rhymes, right? But today we could probably encapsulate as much as we can, probably in a couple listens.
Yeah,
but
the only people around this time that are on par lyrically, in my opinion anyway, with Rakim is going to be, you had Kool Moe Dee, Big Daddy Kane, and Cool G Rap. And imagine being Rakim at that age, where I think he's slightly younger than all those three gentlemen I mentioned before. But imagine those people that you do respect and want to pay some sort of homage and be like, hey, look, I want to, as a peer to you, I want to respect you in my form of lyricism. So it's kind of like it's like one of the gentleman's nods when you guys look at each other and like, no, hey, this is all respect. I like the fact that Rakim kind of took it that serious. I hope it's kind of how I'm illustrating it, but like when I look at in the respect of me as an MC, like if I know who I'm up against in a verse, or if I know I'm doing a verse with you and you, I know I'm going to have to step it up before. If I'm with, or if I'm going live or whatever, I know I have to step it up. I like the fact that Rakim kind of understood the,
for us. Yeah.
He understood the game plan and knew that, hey, look, like these guys who I do respect I gotta come with something.
Gotta stomp.
Like Denzel Washington says, I'm leaving with something.
Also to the soul thing, I know he particularly was into jazz music. I think he played the saxophone. So he did have an interest into jazz music even. which you can also kind of hear in the sound. I think he also says something like when he raps, he tries to rap like almost like if he was playing a saxophone in a way.
And he does.
So I could hear that. I could hear it.
He has a rhythmic cadence that matches that of like a jazz musician.
Yeah.
On either a trumpet or like a saxophone.
Yeah. That's been the main. Those are the kind of. I've
heard
more. I've heard more sax about it, but I could definitely hear the trumpet too. Because
that would have been sick though. Like had he played the sax and then like got off and started rhyming like after that. That would have been sick.
That's what jazz musicians are doing today. They're redoing songs that are popular and just they're playing out the rap verses, which works. You know what I'm saying? So
what do you mean? Because I've seen like contemporary like jazz artists do like New York State of Mind.
Yeah, like, but like okay, so like if
you're saying they're actually doing the lyrics too,
they're doing the lyrics with the sound. Shit. So if they The Way I Am by Eminem, right? So it'd be like.
Really?
And this.
They're
playing all the syllables in the song. So and this weed that gives me that they'll just play that.
I thought someone was rapping while
they're literally playing where the words would be. They're just playing them out because every sound you make is a note. So they just play out the notes. So with Rakim and Eric B, Rakim style, if you listen to him for a long period of time, he does sound kind of like a jazz trumpet or a jazz saxophone. And what I mean by that is like that's Rakim's flow all day.
Yeah, you can hear it.
And then say some words and then hang on the syllable. Say some words and then hang on the syllable. That's sax.
That's gonna be a hell of a clip.
Yeah, that's really what it is though. So if you're like a musician and you know how to connect your words and syllables to sound, then you can do what Rakim is doing. Biggie Smalls was also a great example of a trumpet as well. Saxophone would be more akin to Rakim, but Biggie Smalls is trumpet, and Biggie Smalls was actually trained by a trumpet jazz musician.
I think his uncle or something.
No, it was like a neighbor. He was a trumpet musician. Yeah. He was a jazz musician, and he sat with Biggie and helped him. And he would play the trumpet, and Biggie would align his syllables and rhyming to that. So when you look at musicians, a lot of those guys attach themselves to musicians. Yeah. Tech N9ne is a great example too. Tech N9ne, he connects himself to a guitarist. So when you hear him, that's a guitar. So he's just doing guitar riffs with rap. And you could do that with a guitar exactly like him. So a lot of these MCs of today would attach their flows to an actual jazz musician. So anyway,
do I rap like a piano?
You do. You rhyme in a piano form.
Xylophone. I was thinking
xylophone. Because your rhyme patterns,
kettle drums.
Your rhyme patterns would be like you hitting a lick on a scale and just repeating that lick over like
Yeah, you kind of you do hold true to the rhythm that you start.
Yeah. So you're very locked into, and I don't want to be a nerd about it, but depending on the instrument that you start with and you become a rapper, you will sound like your instrument. If you're more akin to guitar, it's more staccato, like syncopated hits and really sharp stuff. If you're a piano player, you slide into your words. Everything is connected smoothly.
It's interesting. It's interesting that when you are trained by ear to listen to rappers and stuff, and you get to hear like whenever we got to hear like new rappers and stuff when we were rapping, like there was like the who's who of whoever's starting to rap when we were kids.
Yeah.
You could tell when they're just like there's offbeat, but then there's just like no, you're not even in tune with yourself musically when you spit or your rhythm, if anything.
You don't even know the beat exists.
That to me, once you get a certain ear to that, you can hear. It helps to the benefit of when you're actually hearing professionals like Rakim, or you can actually tell where their inspiration comes from, or where their attributes are like really highlighted into whatever particular instrument that they do sound like. Yeah. But then you can also hear the ladder of it, and you're just like, Jesus, man, he does not even. You could tell who's not in tune with themselves.
Yeah, the best way if you want to like really expand your palette on how Rakim flows. Void your mind of words, which sounds crazy, right? But don't listen to the words and just listen to the rhythm, the cadence of what he's saying, and imagine it. Just pretend instead of words, somebody's playing a saxophone, and it'll hit you really hard. Yeah. It'll make a lot of sense. Great examples though. Yeah. So if you want to hear it, without a doubt, Rakim saxophone. Biggie Smalls, trumpet, kind of like Miles Davis a little bit, or John Coltrane. Then Shock G. What would Shock G be? Shock G would actually kind of come off as a singer impersonator in a weird way. Tupac Shakur, he does drums. Thank you. Very rhythmic drums. Tupac Shakur, he's actually kind of a rhythmic singing type of concept. But Shock G actually mentioned that Tupac's concept is he raps like Martin Luther King preaches. I've seen the mountaintop, right? My enemies. He did exactly the same thing as Martin Luther King. So rhythmically, Tupac aligns with Martin Luther King.
That's not an instrument.
No, but same deal. Well, it would be singing. It would technically be singing, right? Martin Luther King's cadence would be seen as singing.
What do you play, dog? I play the MLK.
I play the xylophone.
The MLK 9000.
I play.
I make beats on it.
I play the Spike Lee. But yeah, so the whole concept.
Quick siege.
Yeah.
So exactly. Sure. So Shock G broke it down. He was like, a lot of Tupac's rhythm and flow comes from Martin Luther King's speeches. And I watched Martin Luther King's speeches and listened to Tupac and said, I got it. It's there. But yeah, Biggie Smalls, trumpet, Rakim, without a doubt, saxophone, Tech Nine, guitar for sure. Eminem would be piano. It would be piano and guitar. Yeah, the list goes on and on. I don't want to sit there and do a bunch of music relations. But anyway, in regards to this track in specific, though, once again we get the idea of rapping off of the sample. So Eric B, break the sticks, you got it, right? Yep. So that was rare. Once again, one of those weird moments where it's like, did you just rhyme against what is that, the sample, right? We didn't know what sampling was yet, so that just was crazy. It was just new. So yeah, Eric B, break the sticks. Rakim will begin to when you make the mix, yes. I'll experiment like a scientist. You want to rhyme, you got to sign the list, right? So I'll experiment like a scientist. In a single bar, we got the experiment and scientist. At that time, it's like jizza shit. It's like, what? I'll experiment like a scientist. Oh, experiment, scientist. It connects. Right. So yeah, early tech, man, killing these guys, man. iPhone 1, and people weren't even remotely ready for an iPhone. Yeah. So really good shit, man.
I got, as the rhyme goes on, this track.
The next joint. Yeah.
Yeah, as the rhyme goes on, right away, I think what drew me to this one is the beat definitely drew me to this one.
I did not like the beat, man.
I liked it, man.
That shit sounded...
It was gritty. The bass line to me was dope. It was kind of like, how would I describe it? Kind of like rock steady. Like it was just doom, 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 doom. It was very gritty. I like gritty beats like that. And I think with this one, for me, Rakim like kind of invites you to listen in and get really immersed into the rhymes themselves, like so much so that you're like sinking in it like quicksand. So I love how he's inviting you to really like, don't just like listen to what I'm saying. Don't just dance to what I'm saying. Like be one with these lyrics or with the rhyme. Like he's like
merge with us.
Yeah. He's basically saying like merge into this, like sink into it. And he also just says like, the deeper and deeper you get, it's going to get to the point where you unite basically with it. And he says also too that, it's basically like hard to breathe because you're drowning in it.
Yeah.
You're submerged in it.
And right after that, that bar is these next two bars that he drops is like it's probably one of the best that he has in this whole album, where he goes, the only time I stop is when somebody drop and then bring him to the front because my rhyme's the oxygen.
Yeah, I love that.
Wave your hands when you're ready and I'll send you to the favorite dance, so let the rhythm continue. Like, dude, like,
and then when you wave
resuscitate him, man. Like,
yeah, that's one of my favorite lines I wrote down on there. Another one of the lines. Hear this one. This one's pretty sick. You're physically in this with me. Physically in this with me. Physically in this with me. Mm-hmm. Who's doing that at that time?
Right.
Multi-syllable. Yeah. But how could you tell if it's meant to be? So again, physically in this with me. How could you tell if it's meant to be? Hip hop, if you're not mentally as well. Like how many all these rhymes in there. You know, so that was really dope. How he was just bringing that, and probably unnoticed to the masses, unless you're really like, you know, you probably like, tickled your ear, but you didn't really know what you were hearing, unless you go back to the track.
And it sounds like lyrics from a grown ass man.
Yes, yes.
Like it's like a guy who's seasoned in.
Right, he's been here 30 years and shit.
Yeah, 19. It's really a surprise to be hearing that kind of stuff.
An early taste of Microphone Fiend. The Microphone Fiend, if I was fake, whoever said it's just
that's where you get to the persona. Yeah.
So Microphone Fiend doesn't come up till Follow the Leader, but you know, we get the traces of that here.
And just like how Mark was saying, like it's going to be so bad that, you know, that if you're dropping, because he doesn't stop until somebody drops, right?
Right.
Which is funny in itself, that he can't stop, like, because the rhyme has taken over so much that he can't stop. It's going like it's a train that's just going to keep moving unless somebody drops. But if they drop, bringing them in front, and my rhymes will be the oxygen. Like, that is just crazy. And then on top of that, like when they get up, you know, I'm still going to continue, like Mark was saying, though. One of the dope, amazing lines. Another one that I liked was this, when he said, even if I stop, and he physically stops when he's rhyming, even if I stop, the rhyme remains to be. Like, I was just like, dang, dude. Because you know why? Because we're still waiting. We're anticipating for the rhyme.
Right.
Even when he stops, we're still waiting for it.
Imagine hearing that live and then the crowd finishing it for him.
Exactly.
Right,
Oh, man.
right.
Exactly,
That's
man.
Beautiful. I loved that line. And because he also continues on to say, rising to the top, you know, because the rhyme is going to always rise to the top, no matter what. The rhyme's coming. There was another line I liked in here that he said, and this relates to the Eminem that we were talking about. He says, I'm the R, the A to the K-I-M, which is Kim.
If I wasn't
Eminem's wife, right?
Oh, wow.
I'm just saying.
Kim.
I just saying.
Eminem's that dedicated. Eminem's that dedicated to following in Rakim's shadows. Like, yo, I got to find a girl named Kim.
I got to get a Kim real quick.
I got to get Kim. Like,
so I could come. I'm Ra, she's Kim, I'll be Rakim. That's how it works.
The connection's there. I just got to point it out. The connection's there.
And but if I wasn't, then why would I say I am?
Right. Oh, beautiful.
That anchors into the way I am from Marshall Mathers LP. And it's just a cadence match, man. It's
and
perfect.
if you heard it the way I heard it, because I didn't hear, I mean, I may have heard this track from Rakim, but not to my memory. So to me, the way I found this or discovered this was just beautiful, because I listened to Eminem first, and that was such a big chorus, and the way I am, and if I wasn't the one. So now coming back and hearing this, it's just like a beautiful gem that you find. You know, that's one of the treasures or the good things about looking back to the patriarchs, you know, if you're young, because you start to find out these treasures that they were dropping. You know, they were your favorite artist's favorite artist, you know. And that's how it ultimately grew to be, you know, to be your favorite MC, you know, by MCs like this, what Rakim was doing. So basically, Rakim is talking about like that, you know, dude wasn't fake, right, basically, is what I gathered from there. He knew he had ill rhymes, and he knew as long as you give him a mic, he was going to blow.
Right.
That's in a nutshell what I grabbed from this track. And again, he also mentions MCs at the time who were writing jokes, who were writing riddles and simple rhymes. And, you know, that's sort of like a connecting theme here in this album. So it must have been a lot of MCs in his heyday, like during that period, that were being more silly with it or not taking it as serious as it should be. And what he did was he put respect to the MCing. He put respect to those flows.
He made it more mature than his own actual age, right? So pull out more cordless mic than entertain you well. Before I let go, I'ma spark your brain cell. I took time to write tonight. I will recite so poetically inclined when the mic is held tight. Come on, man. That shit is fire. So, yeah, the way I look at it is he just took it to another level.
I love how he says, the way he describes this too. He goes, while he listens, you know, he talks about, he crosses his arms. He waits.
like an adult, though, like a grown-ass, like a grandpa, right?
Yeah, crosses his
like
arms,
the daddy.
he waits, he's looking at you, he's noticing that they're fronting, they're faking. Like, he's just looking at you like, you're fronting right now. And then he says that he starts aching because of it. He's like aching inside that like it's just so fake and it's fronting and that he has to grab the mic, you know, take control.
Just being anxious, like, man, give me this shit.
That's what do you call it? It's like the braggadocio super rap, right? Mm-hmm. Lyrical super rap. Yeah, that's like we're seeing the seeds of it, man. We're seeing the beginning of it, and I think that's where I want to land on Eric B as president for the next track.
Perfect.
Make them clap to this. I want to dive into the production first on this one.
Yeah, that's in the forefront.
This is the first single from Rakim, Eric B and Rakim, of course. And man, I was running this for the week, right? And it finally hit me. I mean, this song is on I'm a black man, y'all. All my hood movies got this song in it. Every hood movie.
The licensing for this is probably so inexpensive.
Yeah,
they're like, we can get that?
If it's set in the 80s or the 90s, they open with this song. I swear they do. They always open with this song.
Back in New York in 1985, 1987, things were a lot different.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Or if it's in the West Coast in the early 90s, they're playing this shit. Yeah. It's like this song is embedded in my history, man. Like everywhere.
This is an American Psycho.
Yeah.
You remember the bar scene in American Psycho
where
in the beginning, Patrick Bateman's trying to order a drink from the bartender. And that's where he's all. You can hear it in the background.
No, come on, American Psycho's a classic, bro.
But it's like
it's everywhere.
You don't even realize it sometimes. It's
the beat though. Yeah. I will say production wise, I want to anchor on the production real quick. Mm-hmm. If you guys just have some time in your life, just close your eyes and listen to this beat first without the lyrics, and just pretend that you've never heard music like this before. Right? This beat is crazy. It's crazy. What Eric B is doing with the clap effects, like he's like make him clap to this, and he's doing a, but he's hitting the clap and it has this reverse reverb effect on it. And remember, like reverse reverb wasn't easy to do. You'd have to really play a sound forward, then record the sound, flip it backwards, and then have that reverse sound play perfectly on time with you playing it forward again. Sounds ridiculous, right? You'd have to literally, like, let's say I record the snare. Then I have to flip it backwards. Then I'd have to play it forward again, right? To make my original snare land on those backwards snares. So it's that's what it sounds like. It's like this tail effect to a snare. So he has to do 2 layers. One is reverse and one is regular. That's not easy to do. It's not like what I just explained sounds crazy. So yeah, as a producer, on my producer background, I was listening to this like this beat is what got them in there. This beat made people go crazy. Every time I hear this show, I was like, oh, I get it. I can see people breakdancing. I can see people outside on the avenues like going crazy and just like doing everything to this beat. The beat got me. And then as I listened to it more, right, I was like, damn, this is a crazy first single, man. This doesn't even make sense.
Sets it off, man.
Your first single is this track, man. So yeah, I think even my pops, man, I was talking to my pops and he's like, this is one of them ones. It's just everybody was playing it in the hood. Everybody in the hood was playing this one, man. So yeah, excellent track, man. Excellent track, man.
One part of his first verse that really stood out to me was he goes, self-esteem made it seem like a thought took years to build, but still say a rhyme after the next one. Prepared, never scared, I'll just bless one. And you know that I'm the solo whiz, so Eric B, make him clap to this.
I like that.
Make him clap to this.
I want to vote for Eric B for president.
Make him clap to
as
his
vice. I know they're not kicking it anymore, but damn, this is just like a good marriage between the two, and like it's cool that because not a lot of MCs would put over their DJ or the producer in song this early. Mm-hmm. You'd see it later in hip hop, but it's cool to see that you actually had that, the fact that Rakim was putting over Eric B so much in this whole album. And not only that, but like even later in the album, still doing the same thing.
Well, because remember, Rakim didn't initially want to do it, right? Sure. I came in the door, I said it before, I never let the mic magnetize me no more. That I think Biggie took this and remixed it and kicked in the door, waving the 4-4. All you heard was "Pop It, Don't Hit Me No More." So he interpolated what Rakim did, flow wise, and just changed the lyrics. So everything that Rakim was doing was just setting the foundation of the groundwork for the next dudes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of my favorite lines out of this, and I remember hearing Mark say this, in our teenage years. What the meaning of MC is, because, you know, we know MC, you know, there's different terms for MC, I guess, but one of them was master of ceremonies. But I loved how Rakim flipped that, and what MC says it means to move the crowd. Yeah. And I was like, dude, that's swag. That's to make your own meaning of it.
Letter play. No, let's get that.
It's cool to be a rapper in two different positions, because I like the fact that Rakim has a dual identity where he can be very lyrical, but he can also describe street level things and just like still be an MC at that time.
Yeah.
But have that ability to take it up a notch lyrically too. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of rappers that can still do that today. It's right. A very unique. He puts a very unique print onto hip hop history, especially with how he was doing it. You understand the time where this album is released and
how him people doing it.
Yeah, it's very eye opening.
It's a springboard, like Sonic. Remember, like Sonic the Hedgehog, when you hit a springboard, boing, right? Yep. It's a springboard for a lot of MCs that wanted to take the perspective out of I'm running the party, right? And you started to notice that MCs started to take the storytelling to a different level.
It's like a multi-tool, you know. Yeah. It's like the Swiss Army knife.
Well, if you want to look at a lot of the MCing at that time, is we were circulating around what we were doing in the party, and maybe one song out of the album is what's going on in the streets, right? Yeah. But most of the songs we're in the party and I'm running it, and you're gonna do what I say. Mm-hmm. And then one song is like, oh, you know, my cousins sell drugs, we struggling, right? To me, Rakim found this blend of the storytelling and the partying in the same concept. Like you could party to this song, but he's doing miniature storytelling. It's like vignettes.
And he interweaves throughout all his lyrics within this album with those same two abilities.
Mm-hmm. I don't bug out or chill. I be acting ill. No tricks in 86. It's time to build. Eric B easy on the cut. No mistakes allowed. Because to me, MC means to move the crowd. You get that
lyrical skill, but then he still blends it in with like, hey, I'm still the party guy.
I'm telling a story.
I'm the MC responsible.
But I have an origin. I have an origin how I got here, right? You know, so the reason I'm running this party is because I'm the greatest. And I feel like back then they were just like most MCs, typical MCs is I run the party. I'm the best. I run the party. Dance to this, right? And Rakim was like, when I was born, I was told I would run parties, and you are now experiencing what I am capable of. That's how he sounds to me.
I'll also be in the crowd too watching.
I will also observe the crowd as I perform, you know, like simultaneous shit that doesn't make sense at the time.
Bring him forward. I have oxygen for him. Everyone's all passed out.
But you know what I also gather from that is like he's
a lot of depth, man.
Not only is he the artist and he has the passion so much to do the rhymes, but he's so much of a fan, like he will be in the crowd. Mm-hmm. Like he's the type that will be there in the crowd or be next to the speakers.
Gotta be your own biggest fan,
like, you know?
Exactly.
Like, so, I mean, overall, this, I mean, for me, this still slaps too. Like even to this day, like I would still play this. This has a lot of replayability, and I could just imagine living in that time. Like this was probably like,
we rap like Rakim.
Yeah,
a lot of us rap like.
In a different life, I'm probably in 1987 smoking a J, listening to this, just with my Pioneer headphones, and just like, man, this was sick. This dude is sick, man. Because you can't. This is music you can't really catch a buzz with. This is stuff you actually have to get. You have to listen sober or get lifted, man.
I feel like we don't have to do as much thinking as Jizza, though. You know, we could.
True.
It's palatable.
Because it's palatable. Because if we're gonna compare from the episode we did with Liquid Swords, Jizza's all the way on this end of the spectrum. But like I mentioned, Rakim interweaves both elements of the MC and the actual super lyrical portion of an MC's abilities too. Mm-hmm. That's hard to do. That's hard to mix at the time, and he just found it so simple. Like, I'm sure that Eric B saw him like, damn, this dude could,
he's fucking nice.
I don't know how he found him the first time, but damn, like for him to have that instinct, you know, like every startup of every special person always is like, it was always that moment where some dude saw him like, oh, I saw so-and-so spitting on the corner or whatever. And
that's the God.
You know, like.
It's the God.
It's just, I haven't heard Eric B's portion of that. Like I'm always more. I'd rather hear a Rakim interview, but I also want to hear the portion of how Eric B picked him up.
Eric B's like, frankly, I actually wasn't impressed at all. I was looking for a greater MC.
I did this as a favor.
I did it as a favor. I just ran into him.
But it's like the best MC of all time.
I got your back. I got your back.
It just had to be the best MC of all time.
I did Paid in Full as just as a favor.
You know, speaking of like the tech thing, it is in a way kind of like a parallel to like Steve Jobs and like Wozniak or something, like coming together, putting this like together in the home basement, and like boom, blows up.
Yeah, and that's what it is. He said it was just an organic basement experience, man. But now it's out of hand because you told me you hate me, and then you ask, what have I done lately? Which is a Janet Jackson reference. Yeah. First you said, all you want is love and affection. Let me be your angel and I'll be your protection. So he does a small 4-bar critique on what's going on with the women and what's going on then.
That's a lot, though.
It's a lot in 4 bars, man. And you know, a lot of lyricists today, we might have, you know, the syllable count up to 9. You know, some crazy today for those guys that are trying to be, hand quotes, lyrical. Rakim, to me, at this time, he was the most lyrical we can get. And even now, it's like these lines that may seem general to some still have all this longevity. And that's what I'm seeing, man.
And he was barely getting started, too. That's the coolest part about this album. He was just getting started.
Right. You scream, I'm lazy. You must be crazy. Thought I was a donut. You tried to glaze me. So simple, man. But it goes so far, man.
Paid in Full went platinum. I know it went platinum in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah. And it was the first debut single. So it was the first thing that everybody heard, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So I got, I'm going to go on to the next one I have, which is Move the Crowd.
Chinese arithmetic.
I don't think we could play that.
Wait, okay. I think Move a Crowd is the beat I hated. I don't know. What about, this is the one beat I was like, this is the datedness I can hear.
Hey, that's why we're the triangle, baby. Yeah. That's why we're the triangle.
I was like, this is the dated sound that I was like, this is it. This is where the, this was made in 87.
Sure.
So
I definitely hear what you're saying.
I can hear that.
I definitely hear what you're saying. I think the reason why I chose this one is because, you know me, I like that storytelling, but the storytelling where it's like, why are you doing this?
Right.
So Rakim talks about him standing right from the first jump, standing by a speaker. Why, like, are you standing by a speaker, dude?
Because he's not by the front of the stage.
I know, but it's like open scene. You're by a speaker.
Visual now.
You're by a speaker.
Right.
Like, it's just funny to me that that's the first thing we come to is him standing by a speaker. We already know he's a fiend. So him standing by a speaker is just like only going to tempt him, right?
What else, Rob? You're scaring me, man. What's going on?
It's like storytelling. So suddenly I had this fever, right? Was it me or was it Summer Madness? Because I can't just stand around. So I get closer and closer. And the closer I get, the better it sounds. Like,
my mind started to activate, rhymes collaborate. Because when I heard the beat, I just had to make something from the top of my head.
Like, I fell into the groove of a wax, and I said, I love everything.
So when he does that, this form of lyricism, it's still it's kind of he kind of shows the primitive lyrical skill at this time, because he goes, I heard the beat and I just had to make, and now you're stuck in, like, you want to hear the rest of that bar.
Right. He broke the bar line though, right?
You hear him finish that off.
Yeah, he broke the bar line. So at the time it's like he
had to make
what? And then he's going to follow up.
Yeah, man. I like that.
That's flavor, man. That's just swag.
He turns it up to 10 and then brings it back down, and like, oh shit, I want to finish the.
We got the Slick Rick. If you want to hear, like, there's definitely some Slick Rick on this. The vibe on this one to me feels Slick Rick oriented. You know what I mean?
I definitely see that. I also like on this one because he's also like starting to get this fever, and he hears
the microphone. He can't take it,
and he starts to think, you know, how can I move the crowd? He starts to think, like, okay, now how can I really do this? Like, what's going to get the crowd moving? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to be about. It's like, how's everybody?
MCing is.
Yeah, that's what MCing does. And so I like how he started to go into that aspect, and he even gave you instructions like, this is how you're going to do it, you know? And he starts off by his first instruction is like, no mistakes allowed.
Ain't no mistakes allowed.
No mistakes allowed. That's rule number one.
Rule number one, be
Rule
perfect.
Be perfect. So I love how he starts to get into this about these instructions. And also, let me just kind of go back onto this beat really quick. Like you were saying, Andre, it does date. It does date.
It's probably the opening. The opening. Man.
However,
Sounds like the closing of a 90s sitcom.
It
Well,
does.
I
It
was
sounds
thinking-
like Seinfeld
I
was
was
made by
thinking.
black
I
people.
was thinking Martin. 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 I was thinking like that. So
Okay. I
If
got
Seinfeld was made by a dude named Barry David, Larry David.
Stupid.
Barry Gordy. If Barry Gordy did.
Yo, who are all these people, B?
Barry Gordy presents Seinfeld. That'd be perfect, man.
Oh man, that
Same
could
people
lead,
that-
that
same
could lead
people
us
that
into
did
a
Fresh
whole
Prince of Bel-Air.
Seinfeld. That could lead us into a whole other Seinfeld conversation.
From the people that brought you Fresh Prince brings you Seinfeld.
But yeah, so like this track, what I liked about it is I liked that it did have that sound. Weirdly enough, like I actually liked that I felt that it was dated on this track for me. I like the do
represents
do
its
do do
period.
do do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that was dope though.
Yeah,
I like
I
that.
like
That
that.
drop is cool. I don't have a problem with that. It's just when it opened, it was just like, oh man, for the show, I was just listening. I was like, oh God, I could feel it. I know what year it is, and I don't like that film. I know what year. I know exactly what year you made this, nigga. I know.
And it doesn't sound like a hip hop instrumental off the jump.
No, no, it doesn't.
That's where
It
it kind
sounds
of.
kind of
it-
funky.
It sounds like the budget and the studio and the basement and everything. I felt
Yeah.
the exact level of quality that was available, but that's not talking down on them. That's just what I could hear. But I saw this in verse 2. Imagine me. That's the first thing he says, right? And I was like, that's another thing that I don't think was common in that period, to describe yourself in such an image, to change the perspective of the listener and to give them a new visual of yourself, right? You know, I'll say, kick down the door, start blah, 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 right? And say some shit like, and give you more visual of me. But he kept it simple. Imagine me. And then a following visual. This is one of those examples of early tech, right? You already know, I'm gonna just bring you the new tech on some lyricology shit. So yeah, imagine me with the heat that's made by solar. It gets stronger every time I hold a microphone. Check the tone to get started. The line for the microphone is departed. So you could see the heat as a gun, or the heat as of the soul of the sun, right? Because he's Rakim. Right. So yeah, imagine me with the heat that's made by solar. It's like, what does that mean? You know, and I love that idea that we still have at that time something you can't Google. I call these bars Googleables. If you can't Google it in the past, then you had to read a book or had already innately known what he was talking about. If you didn't, you just thought he was talking about some weirdo shit. So yeah, I like that. Imagine me, right? That's interesting.
Like you said,
with the heat
perspective.
that's made by
Right.
solar. What? It gets stronger every time I hold her. And he broke the bar line again. Microphone. And it's all rhyming too, right? Solar, stronger, holder, microphone. Check the tone to get started. So come on, man. He just a league of his own, man.
I like how he gets bothered by like weak MCs, weak ideas. He says the line in here, weak ideas irritate my ears. And just that alone, he the ears and ideas, he bent it in a way where it rhymes.
Yeah.
Weak ideas irritate my ears. Is this the best
My
that you
ears.
can make? Because if not, you got more, I'll wait.
Yeah.
Again, him being patient. I love that he's patiently waiting for you to come with it. And if not, he's going to take over again,
Exactly.
you know?
So leave it to me.
But as
My
I thought
DJ is
that-
mixing, everybody is moving, but
yeah.
eager to listen.
So as I thought that, I was like, oh, this guy's patient. And then the next thing he says, but don't make me wait too long because I'm on a move.
Because I'm on the move. Right.
I love that.
I got enough patience for a bar. That's basically what he said. I have enough patience to wait for one bar, but don't make me wait too long.
I was like, oh man, this dude's patient. That's cool. And then also I read on, oh, don't make me wait too long though, because I'm going to move on.
Because I'm slightly impatient. I'm not as patient as I mentioned before.
So I also did write down one of my favorite lines was that Imagine bar that you brought up. That was another just cool way to like, you know, just bring it. Like he's inviting you to now use your mind to imagine things and to like, just picture it, and so that's another dope.
Perfect. Especially when the music's going slow, it gives me a chance to let everybody know, right? So you got slower BPM, this one's slower beat,
right?
Slower tempo. I can say more. I can tell a story. You'll be able to digest it, receive the words. Compared to the average BPM at that time was like 90 to like 110. Pretty fast, right? This one's probably around, it's probably around early 80.
Yeah.
Or maybe 70, but it's much slower beat.
One of the other lines I wrote down is that he says, "I'm intelligent, wise on the mic. I will rise right in front of your eyes, 'cause I'm a surprise with knowledge of self. There's nothing I can't solve." And it's weird how these tracks, or not these tracks, but these artists that we're covering kind of connect from the artists we covered just a couple of weeks ago, like with Jizza, for example, the knowledge of self.
5% Nation.
Yeah.
They're from bars. 5% Nation.
But I love this line because, it describes so much, because obviously we get that this dude's wise, he's intelligent, and he's telling you that right in front of your eyes, I'm going to come here and it's going to bloom. It's going to blossom. You're going to see me just, just blow up like a volcano in front of your eyes, like do something magnificent. Yeah.
For him to make, and for him to make that kind of claim, for him to identify knowledge of self is going to be him knowing those questions remember that I told you, like the supreme mathematics, all that stuff.
At that time.
At 19, knowing like all 128 questions that somebody can like sun you and ask you about it. Yeah. He knew them, and like that garners a lot of respect, because you just can't say, "Yo, I got knowledge of self." If I said that, a 5%er could come up to me and ask me like, "Hey, do you know what's today's mathematics?"
Right.
Brother. Shit. I don't have knowledge of self. I'll see you guys later.
Right.
Plus, I'm not black.
With this one, with knowledge of self, there's nothing I can't solve. At 360 degrees, I revolve. So the 360 it can go back to him being the sun. The 360 degrees can revolve with the cycle. It can be involved with cipher. So the circle can represent so many things. The cycle of being at the beginning, but also at the end as well, right? Yeah. So the alpha omega bars. This bar right here, with knowledge of self, there's nothing I can't solve. At 360 degrees, I revolve. He solved his question in that same couplet, right? There's nothing I can't solve, because the answer is 360 degrees, I revolve. So he is the sun. The sun is the full completion. He's already done his work from beginning to end, all the way through to the full cycle. So, man, it's just incredible how like this is a couplet, man, and you can tell.
You get subterranean with it.
Exactly, man.
It's nuts.
Go into the deep end with it.
A master lyricist, somebody we can quote all day long, true hip hop legend, patriarch of the golden age, and continues to this day to still drop knowledge. Rakim, we pay you homage and honor, brother. And I owe so much to Rakim and what I do and what my passion for hip hop is, and it's nothing but respect. But respect. And I think, for our young listeners, if you haven't checked out Rakim and you're like, it sounds dated or whatever, you know what? Honestly, in my opinion, I feel like you got to train your ears, and you got to envision that time period of when he came out. There are artists that have come out today that you think they're the thing, but just picture in that time period, same thing. Yeah. He was the thing, and still continues to be the thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Got to pay respects to it, and he inspires so many artists that we love today. If it wasn't for him, who knows where hip hop would have gone?
Right.
Facts.
Right.
So that way he was really critical, a crucial point in hip hop for him and Eric B to drop an album like this so organically, dude.
So organically.
That's what boggles my mind. But that's
the
in itself.
The youth behind it too.
That's what makes it a good album, because it wasn't forced.
Yeah.
It wasn't forced. It was something like, some just natural young men fucking around with some music and making something substantial.
Yep.
And that's what we have. We have a classic for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of you are going to have your top 11s edited as far as your top 11 favorite MCs after you hear not just Paid in Full. It takes more than Paid in Full to actually understand like Rakim's his lyrical prowess.
I think
it takes up to about you do Paid in Full and Don't Sweat the Technique and Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em. It's what you need on that end. But I stand on my soapbox saying that, like, yeah, he's my favorite MC. He's my number one spot, and I'm glad you guys have moved all your MCs.
You know what? We got to.
You guys got to fix your top 11.
That's a good topic for us to talk about next time. Is like, who's our top MCs? Like,
that's crazy, man. It'll get too elaborate.
I'm down, but I think we can do it. I think we can pull it off.
If I could tell everybody watching now, a list doesn't count. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense anymore.
We'll still do a list.
We'll still do a list. We'll still do a list. It's just in my bigger context of things. I was like, there's thousands of NCs, and you're gonna just whittle them down to 5 people. That's ridiculous. But Rakim is definitely in my top million for sure. I really believe he deserves to be in my top million. I listen to a lot of rap, man. No lies though.
Honestly, I don't know where Rakim is at.
He's a huge influence.
I think he's in my top 10. I just gotta list it.
That sounds ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
I think he's in my top 10.
Yeah. That's how good. I mean,
but I think you have to categorize your tops then, you know. So if I would say top 10 influences, Rakim, bam. Yeah. Not top 10 like artists of my ilk. But if it came down to how I do everything today, I wouldn't even begin to know how to do it if Rakim didn't do it first. Yeah. Right? For him to influence Nas, for me, Fabulous, for me, Cameron, Eminem, all these guys, I wouldn't even have that influence if it wasn't for Rakim. So when I go back and listen to him, I'm from the post Eric B era. So all of the music after Eric B, that's what I know from Rakim. Everything before that, I had to study. Yeah. But,
and then you guys even have to question my top 10 because I have Rakim, Murphy Lee. Murphy Lee's number 2.
Smurfy Lee.
Nelly, Ja Rule.
Smurfy Lee.
Silk the Shocker.
Nicki Minaj.
No, that's what I'm kidding. That's why I'm like, it's just a nonsensical idea of a top 10.
Silk the Shocker. Wait, Mystical, Nicki Minaj.
Silk the Shocker's number 3.
Wow.
But
Chingy,
no, it's
Chingy, Chameleon.
He's a Chingy.
Chingy is in the top 10.
Chingy and Nelly are the same person, so we're gonna keep them in the same.
Wow, what a dishonor to Nelly, dude. That's such a dishonor to Nelly.
What? Chingy's not the Diet Pepsi version of Nelly? Are you kidding me? And then, Jaquan's not the Coke Zero of Chingy.
Coke Zero. Maybe.
Everyone in this podcast is getting tipsy. All right. If you do end up listening to Rakim in all seriousness, he may jump into your favorite rap artists in your list.
You will hear your favorite rapper in his music.
And you'll hear someone that's influenced by him.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That's not a stretch of the imagination.
Definitely,
it's true. It's there. I am glad that we covered this because Rakim he holds a special place in my heart, especially this album and his next albums after this, because the variety that youth brings, especially bringing this at a young age, I always have to tell people as soon as they bring up Nas made Illmatic at 20, well, Rakim did Paid in Full at 19. What are you trying to say?
Right.
Like it can always happen, and it's great that this happened like this because by the tale that we're told, just Eric B brought Rakim along
and saved the day, man.
True.
Yeah, man. So it's this album's incredible. You could tell where a lot of people got their whole style from.
Yeah. Early foundation of compound syllables. Make the cheeks clap to this. So yeah, early
You'll
examples.
Get clapped after this.
You'll get clapped after this. Early examples of compound syllable rhymes, internal rhymes, scheming, which
someone
is
getting
connecting
clapped
themes.
after this.
Someone getting clapped after this applause.
Then shameless promotion to the all music, old school raps and hip hop.
Right.
There's over 500 albums in this
lexicon.
Yeah, there's over 500 albums
in this lexicon.
This.
And I got
you get put on
Rakim's Check
game.
the Rhyme. I got Rakim's Don't Sweat the Technique book. Very good book, by the way. Speaks on the lifetimes of Rakim and just what he went through. His writing style is really unique. Before we go, I just wanted to share that. Rakim, at the time when he was expressing in the book, he was like, his writing style is he envisions a giant white room. Nothing else there's no color. The entire room is completely vividly white, and then he literally writes the words and envisions them as he writes them. So thinking of a master plan, and the words pop up on a projector in a white room. And I utilize that writing technique for the last few years. Of course, I don't write on paper. I write in my head now. I don't write on most of my stuff is freestyle. The last thing I wrote was with you guys. But that technique actually does really void your mind of any interference. So Rakim explained when he makes the room white, when he writes in it, there's no other color that can come in to distract him from his writing process. So that blank room keeps his mind blank so that he can use it as a meditation to write bars. He literally says, I completely clear my body and just channel God. I was like, what?
Good Lord. Literally, good Lord.
And on that note,
the real God.
On that note,
Will Rakim find God again? Stay tuned on the next episode of That's Hip Hop.
That's hip hop. Just found God. That's hip hop. No, want to thank everybody for listening in. We truly appreciate our supporters, and we just thank you guys for rocking with us. Thank you guys for taking this journey with us down these albums, and we promise to deliver the best that we can do. Every Monday we're dropping episodes. Thank you for the love, support. Take care. Have a good one.
Peace.
That's hip hop.